you out if necessary. Okay? So I think that's what we have today. Okay, it's time for our formal program today. We'll start with an opening prayer. Would you please stand as you are able for our opening prayer, which will be delivered by our very own Reverend Thomas Mellring.
Thank you, Wayne. If you'd bow your heads, this is an opening retirement prayer, a prayer for a person who is about to retire. Lord, here Vance stands today with a new horizon ahead of him. Vance knows that he is entering a later phase of his life, yet he feels so much the same inside. We ask that you help Vance with the assistance of his loving wife, Jessica, to seize each sunrise and fully live each day. May Vance and Jessica be guided by your spirit and walk into this new landscape with hope and confidence, especially since we all know Vance is an introvert. May Vance engage with the beauty of creation and connect with the passions, hopes, and dreams he had when he was young. We pray that Vance not leave anything behind, but continue walking forward into all he can be, all he can enjoy, and all he can give. To this next page, the next chapter of life shared with both Jessica and you, Lord Jesus. Amen.
Thank you very much, Thomas. Please remain standing for the singing national anthem, which will be sung by our DISSM at Naval Facilities Engineering Command, Ms. Lisa Zimmerman.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free?
Thank you very much, Lisa, and please be seated. We're very fortunate to have a number of special guests with us today. And when I introduce people, I always start with the most important people. And the most two important people here are, first off, let's welcome our retired honoree, Mr. Vance Brahaske. And I also want to acknowledge the love of Vance's life for the last 32 years since they got married in 1990. Please welcome Mrs. Jessica Brahosky. We are very fortunate to have 6 members of the senior executive service with us today. I will be introducing them. Let's have one round of applause for them after I've introduced all 6. We're fortunate to have our previous technical director here. He currently serves as the chief system engineer for the ASN RDA at the Pentagon, Mr. Paul Mann. I guess not. Up on the stage here, we have another prior technical director. He is currently the executive director of PEO C4I. Let's welcome Dr. Bill Lubke. I want to acknowledge the executive director of Ranges and Targets, Instrumentation and Labs from Point Mugu, Mr. Tom Dowd. And we're very fortunate to have the technical director of the Naval Facilities Engineering Command here, Mr. Cale Macias. Let's acknowledge the director for logistics and fleet support from the Naval Warfare Systems Command, Mr. Rich Cassis. Last but certainly not least, we have our current technical director, Mr. Jeff Coe. And let's have one big final round of applause for everybody. Before we get started with the formal program, I want to take a few minutes and summarize for you Vance's background and his many accomplishments at work. Vance was born and raised in central Pennsylvania. In high school, he was on the wrestling team, the football team, and the president of the junior class. He went to university at Penn State University, graduating in 1985 with a degree in mechanical engineering. As soon as he graduated, he was commissioned into the Navy and served on 2 ships, the USS John A. Moore, FFG-19, and USS Jarrett, FFG 33. He was the combat system engineer for 4 ships, and he has served over 100 ships in his role as the engineering duty officer at Yokosuka, Japan, and his many civilian roles at Fort Hueneme, at the Pentagon, and at NAVSEA. He served as an engineering duty officer here at Fort Hueneme from 1995 to 1997, and then he decided to transition to the civilian workforce at that time. And almost immediately, he was asked to come to NAVSEA by Rear Admiral Kathleen Page to support her in her many events that she had there. So for the next 18 years, from 1998 to 2016, he had a number of distinguished positions there. He was the major program manager for cooperative engagement capability. He led test and evaluation for both Aegis and NAVSEA-05. He's worked in foreign military sales. It goes on and on. You name it, Vance has done it. We were very fortunate in 2016 when Vance decided to come back to Port Hueneme to take on the role as Deputy Technical Director for Port Hueneme. He Senior Scientist Technical Manager, SSTM is the term, and he's one of only 2 people at Port Hueneme that has that grade. So we've heard about Vance's life growing up. We've heard about his accomplishments. We've heard about his education, but we never get the full measure of a person. At least I don't think, until we know what makes a person tick, okay? What are the interests that he has? What is important to him? And so I'd like to spend a few minutes and talk about some of Vance's interests. And he will have many, as you see. When he retires, he and Jessica will be doing quite a bit of traveling nationally and internationally. They like to grow roses in their garden. Vance is going to be donating his time to several organizations, the local Knights of Columbus chapter. He will be donating time and interest in the USS Iowa Museum, and also at the Thousand Oaks Public Library. So when Vance retires, you can be sure that he and Jessica will definitely not be sitting on their hands. As I conclude my remarks, I want to talk a little bit about what is important to Vance. And one way I can say it is that Vance is a person that honors the past and looks forward to the future. Now, you may be saying, Wayne, that seems a little contradictory, but let me tell you why. Honoring the past. In my opinion, Vance is the preeminent naval historian, a PhD, and probably one of them in the Navy. I'll bet he could name for you what happened on any day of the year in naval history. In fact, if you came up to him afterwards on March 31st, if you asked him on March 31st, he would be able to tell you what happened 75, 100 years ago, something like that. So obviously you can see that he honors the past. How about looking forward to the future? To answer that question, look around you. What did you see? Everything you see is what we have, because Vance has decided to have his retirement ceremony at FATHOMWERX, which is one of the premier public-private consortiums for innovation that tackle the most threatening, most challenging problems for the Navy. Vance was one of the leading motivators and supporters of FATHOMWERX, so you can see that it is true that he is looking forward to the future. I'll conclude my remarks, but what I think is most important to Vance, at least from a professional level, he has worked with 4-star admirals. He has worked with senior executive service civilians, and he has worked with seaman recruits. If you work for the Navy at any capacity, he treats you all the same. The highest honor that he can give somebody, or somebody can give to him, is to refer to each other as shipmate. To me, that simplifies the essence of Vance Brahaske. Now that we've known a little bit about Vance from me, we'll learn about him from more important people. So let's move into the remainder of our program today. We're fortunate to have 4 speakers with us today. 2 of them were not able to be here, but we were fortunate to have video tributes with them. And so our first speaker has a connection to Port Hueneme. He was here in the early 2000s as lieutenant commander, and he was the department officer for the launching and missile systems. Since then, he's had ever more increasingly responsible roles, and he currently is a director of the Missile Defense Agency. Let's enjoy a video tribute from Vice Admiral John Hill.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are when you view this message. It is always an honor to be able to participate in some way in the celebration of key members of our Naval Combat Systems enterprise. We are a relatively small group with the simple mission of putting ordnance on target. But as we all know, given the complexity of the threat, the mission requires a number of critical processes and the development of systems that really are not so simple. At the foundation of any system are the people, those who assess the threat, those who engineer and design the systems, those who write the algorithms, and those who integrate complex systems into complex ship designs, those who manage production lines, those who plan and execute realistic operational tests, those who support the fleet, and those who execute the tough job of in-service engineering. It does not take a village. It takes people who focus on the fleet and wake up every day knowing our sons and daughters need the best defenses possible when they deploy. One of those people is Vance Brahaske. Vance, I want to congratulate you on your stellar career. Thank you for your service to our country and for playing such a critical role in the United States Navy. I would prefer to be there in person, but I'm happy to participate by video in this ceremony to recognize your career after more than 37 years of combined military and federal service. I want to extend my appreciation to your wife, Jessica, for all that she has done to support you over the years. She has been and is a saint. Family life is so important. We are all blessed to have the love and support of our family and friends while we serve the nation. I first met Vance after completing a tour with the United States Army, then reporting to the PMS 400B Aegis shipbuilding program in Crystal City in the late 1990s. Now, Vance had just transferred from active duty as a rising civil servant systems engineer. Our team was developing and evolving air defense capabilities, extending air defense across the Carrier Strike Group and what would eventually become NIFCA, Naval Integrated Fire Control and Counter Air, and of course, the mission of regional missile defense in cruisers and destroyers. I departed after that tour to serve as a Missile and Launching Systems Department Officer there in Port Hueneme, meaning I missed the move to the Navy Yard. But in the combat systems enterprise, we are all close, even if geographically separated. For instance, I knew that Vance had done the unthinkable in his new office in the Navy Yard. He had actually painted a ship's waterline on the freshly painted walls. And I suppose he did so in order to tell if the weapons loadout was sufficient for battle. And believe me, there were some battles in those days. Vance, as you elevated to different positions throughout your career, you played critical roles across the life cycle: development, test and evaluation, in-service engineering, and one of the fleet's toughest challenges, interoperability across the different ship types, across different missions and different combat systems. No simple task. Today, the Navy is on track, thanks to many of your efforts with new sensors, upgraded combat control networks, weapons links, data links, and force-level coherent air picture, and a whole host of high-end weapons capabilities, both kinetic and non-kinetic. During your final posting as the Deputy Technical Director for the Naval Surface Warfare Center, Port Hueneme Division, you brought strong leadership and the seasoned managerial skills needed to run one of our greatest centers for test and evaluation excellence and in-service engineering innovation. We are grateful to you, Vance, and your service in the Navy over the course of your remarkable career. You played a vital role in ensuring the safety of the American people and defending our forward deployed forces. Congratulations, my friend, on a truly successful and honorable career serving the U.S. Navy and the federal government. A wise old admiral once told me, the system reflects the organization that built it. Not only was he advocating for streamlined organizations so that our naval force would be integrated and interoperable, he was also saying that people matter, talented people who are focused on the mission. You have made lasting contributions to the future of our great service, and I know your colleagues will miss you. PhD NSWC has a special place in my heart. You always refer to NSWC Port Hueneme Division, or Nemesis, as the station, and I will never forget that. It was your way of emphasizing that the engineering station at Port Hueneme exists to support the fleet through rigorous test and evaluation and critical in-service engineering. I personally wish you and Jessica all the best in your years ahead.
Our second speaker also has a connection.
Hi there, everyone. I hope it's
You can practice as much as you want and still something always happens. Our second speaker also has a connection to Port Hueneme. She served as the chief engineer here from 1991 to 1993, then moved on to positions in ASN RDA and the Missile Defense Agency. She currently is the president of Mark India, which is a company that provides consulting services to the government, industry, and other non-profit related organizations on strategies for missile defense and other missiles defense areas. We are pleased to hear a video tribute from Rear Admiral Kathleen Page, USN retired.
Hi there, everyone. I hope it's another typically wonderful day there in Port Hueneme. As I hope you know, Port Hueneme Division remains very dear to my heart, and that's thanks to you all and what you continue to accomplish for the fleet each day. I am also so very pleased to be here with you today, at least virtually, from our rental place in southern Florida, a nice place to be in the winter time, because I get to be here to celebrate Vance Brahaske. Vance, to me, epitomizes the engineering excellence and the fleet mission focus that is Port Hueneme Division at its best. It's also a particularly special honor for me to be here speaking today because I get to follow Vice Admiral John Hill in offering praise, deepest respects, and heartfelt thanks to Vance and his beautiful wife and life partner, Jessica. Hi there, Jessica, how are you? There are so many iconic naval officers and civil servants associated with what I still like to refer to as Nemesis. They include then Captains Wayne E. Meyer and Dave Altwig. There's also the young then Commander John Hill. Of course, there's many misters, Mr. Ted Raines, Gene Fisher, Art Roberts, I missed, Gene Smith, near the head of that list, and so many more. Each of these people have taught us through example and just their spirit that the fleet deserves and needs the best that we have to offer. Vance, I've got to tell you, you're in the top tier of that list. And after saying that, I could go on and on and on and talk about Vance's professional accomplishments and wonderful attributes. But I sure hope and suspect that you're all going to be spending a lot of time talking about those things throughout today's celebration. Instead, I'd like to talk about the professional kinship, perspectives that Vice Admiral Hill, Vance, and I all share. Of course, we all served here at the engineering station, and in turn, the station has served our careers well. More importantly, the station's made a deep impression on our hearts and on our minds while working together, civilian and military, arm in arm, in service of the fleet. Now, before coming to Port Hueneme, we all earned our advanced degrees at the Naval Postgraduate School in Monterey, California, as did, by the way, Admiral Meyer. We all also have worked in the Washington, D.C. area with tours that included the Assistant Secretary of the Navy for Research, Development, and Acquisition. And I'm very happy to say we're all very proud engineering duty officers to EDOs. These collective experiences have contributed to who we all are today, including our mutually strong sense of mission focus in service of the fleet and, of course, of the greater national security. We value, appreciate, and nurture our professional families, but always it is our personal families that are closest to our hearts. Vance, thank you for providing inspiration to so many, including me, for so very long. Because of you, the United States Naval Fleet is a better fleet. We're also very fortunate that we've had the opportunity to be a part of your professional family, Vance. Thank you so very much. With best wishes to you and Jessica for fair winds and following seas. Take care, everyone. I miss you.
We are very fortunate to have two keynote speakers with us today. Our first keynote speaker had a distinguished career as in the Navy, in active duty with numerous assignments at shore and at sea. In 2004, he retired from active duty and has taken numerous assignments at NAVC. He was the technical director at NSWC Corona from 2009 to 2017 And starting in 2014, he did double duty by doing the technical director position at Port Hueneme until 2017. Currently serves as the executive director for PEO C4I. Please welcome Dr. Bill Lubke.
Morning, everybody. These are really hard acts to follow. And on top of that, Vance gave me 10 minutes to talk. So that's about 1 minute for every 5 years, if I'm doing the math right, Vance, you know that you've been around. I think I'm going to fail you a minute or two on that, but that's okay. No charge for today. All right. First of all, Wayne, thank you for the warm welcome. I noticed you've got the whole darn thing memorized. It's very impressive. Really appreciate that. So it's a great day. To me, it's a sad day, but it's also a great day because we're recognizing Vance and his wonderful wife, Jessica. Jessica, I'll never forget. We schlepped out to White Sands and we were out there for several days, and somehow we ended up dark 30 at LAX and made our way back up here. Sun was barely up. I was supposed to drop Vance off, and there you were, probably the best breakfast platter I have ever had. Fresh strawberries, whipped cream. I still remember the sandwiches. I'm going to live about a year less because of that. But wow, that was outstanding. So thank you for it. That just snippet of your hospitality just made a great day and a much brighter sunrise for us. Thank you, and for everything. So let me get started here, and I'm going to do something just a little bit different. Vance, I can't remember. I heard about you and then I met you, but I can't remember specifically, but I know it's over 25 years and it has been an incredible ride. But let's just pick down into this naval history thing that you heard Wayne talk about. I've got a couple thoughts here, and I've done some math, and I think I can help us find an answer for why the heck Vance knows every darn day of the year and where it is in naval history. Okay, so the answer is one word: reincarnation. Okay, Continental Navy started October 13th, 1775. Back then, lifespans were about 50 years. Vance was born October 13th, 1775. We call him Vance number 1. If you add 50 years to 1775, you get 1830. In 1831, Vance number 2 was born. Back then, though, the lifespan was 60 years. So add the math, 1831 becomes 1891. In 1892, Vance number 3 was born, but then the lifespan was 70 years. So 1892 becomes 1962. Vance number 4 was born in 1963. So you are the 4th incarnation. He actually he sees himself as USS Vance Brahaske. Don't look in the mirror. But here he is in the flesh, and I just think your life has been nothing but the life of a ship mirrored in a human. So I told you, delivered in 1963. Sea trials, builder trials, acceptance trials, all that through Penn State, mechanical engineer, and then commissioned in the Navy as a human and ship August 17th, 1985. Your maiden voyage was in 1990 when you married Jessica. All right, and moving on that, then you made legendary deployments in NAVC, PEO TSC, PEO IWS, and of course here at Port Hueneme. Sometimes, Vance, you operated in contested waters. Sometimes you went in harm's way. But I can profess, no matter what, it was always for a force for good. So as the fourth ship of this reincarnated class, you end your deployment at Port Hueneme today. You leave Port Hueneme Division in markedly better shape and a crown jewel of NAVC's warfare centers, leading the Human Capital Task Force, the Antrix entry in 2018, and driving public-private innovation via FATHOMWERX are just the tip of the iceberg, Vance. I think your profoundly positive influence on so many, your unselfish love and celebration of all that is our great Navy, and your career-long, far-reaching achievements for the betterment of generations of civilians and sailors sets you apart in such a magnificent way. And I'm so proud to know you. So your career touched so many, your leadership touched so many. Generations are in your debt going forward, no doubt about it. The work you've done and the relationships that you've cultivated are going to stay with us and with you long into the next voyage. Vance Brahaske, you're the real deal, answering the call since 1775. He's lived it, that's why he knows it, and I'm so glad to solve that for everybody today. Ex Historia Mare Imperium. Ex Historia Mare Imperium. From history, sea power. Vance, thank you again for your 37 years of absolutely distinguished and devoted service to the United States Navy and a grateful nation. Take in all lines, the fairest of winds and following seas, my friend. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Lupke. We're fortunate to have a second keynote speaker today. He has 35 years of Department of Defense engineering and management experience. He has commanded sailors at sea and ashore. He served as the commanding officer of the Surface Combat Systems Center, Wallops Island. He also served as the program manager at the NATO Sea Sparrow Program Office, and I had the fortune of working for him in the late 2008, 2010. He currently is the Vice President and General Manager of Systems Engineering Group and is responsible for a broad spectrum of engineering, missile systems engineering, radar systems, software development. Please give a warm welcome to our next speaker, Captain Mike Anderson, United States Navy, retired.
I'll echo Dr. Lupke. I mean, how do you constrain a force of nature like Vance Brahaske and summarize that in 10 minutes? Both the advantage and curse of batting cleanup as some of that material's been covered. So we'll kind of dive in and fill in some of the gaps. But first of all, I just want to say thank you and welcome. obviously SES's Port Hueneme leadership, and so many friends, right, that go back to the days back in the mid 90s when Vance and I were here, when Marlon was trying to keep us all under control in the shark pit down in the old A13 offices. And Port Hueneme truly is a family. It was a great place to start a career, and it's a fitting place to bring a career to a close. So let's play tribute to this great American, Vance Brahaske. As Vance is never shy about telling anyone who will listen, for decades he's been carrying old captains like myself, Brian Gannon, Steve Ballister on his back, many other former and current leaders. So I guess those legs are finally getting a little tired, and it's time for us to climb off and walk on our own. But thanks for the ride, Vance. You're an e-ticket, buddy. There's a quote that comes to mind when I think of Vance, that I think perfectly encapsulates his spirit. And it's why so many senior leaders have sent messages today, and so many of the old guard of Aegis are here present today. And that quote is a famous line from Senator Barry Goldwater: "Extremism in the defense of liberty is no vice, and moderation in the pursuit of justice is no virtue." And anybody that's worked with Vance over his career, with his single-mindedness of purpose and boundless devotion and dedication to the fleet, I think would have a similar view that just sums him up about perfectly. For Vance, good enough isn't, and soon enough is too late, right? And that's exactly the determination and urgency our sailors need. Vance has always understood that the world is a dangerous place, and the events of today are unfortunately bringing that home. And he's never wavered for a day in that determination and sense of urgency to serve the sailors at sea. Through 37 years of service, right, the name Vance Brahaske has become synonymous with love of Navy, as we've all know and we've all heard, and his walking historical register of naval events, right? We've all heard on this day of naval history, as Dr. Lukey expounded, often forgotten battles, milestones, great acts of heroism, right? These are the things that keep us grounded. That's what's kept Vance grounded. And that's what's, his keeping that focus has always kept all of us focused. So just so we don't disappoint Vance, on this day in naval history, 31 March 1854 was when Commodore Matthew C. Perry, right, certainly one of Vance's heroes, signed the Treaty of Kanagawa, which opened Japan to trade with the United States. What a perfect day for Vance to open the gates to retirement and to his next phase of life. It's also fitting, given not only his love of Navy history, but his ties to Japan. That's where his career as a naval engineer truly began, right, in the ship repair facility Yokosuka, as you heard from Wayne at the beginning. That's where he and I first met back in 1995, as I was working on the JDS Kurashima Sea Squat, and Vance was in the shipyard, and we went over there to start getting clued into all things working with the JMSDF and working with Japan Aegis ships. And he gave me my first introduction to that world as I embarked on that effort here as a Port Hueneme test officer. It's where he kind of honed his demand for technical excellence and his sharp focus on the sailor on the deck plates. More importantly, right, Japan is where Vance met his lovely wife, Jessica, who was over working there at the time. And he's kind of carried that heritage forward ever since. They've now have their second Japanese chin dog, Commodore Perry II, keeping to the theme, right? And that's really where I think where we'll see that theme keep coming back again and again and again. Probably Vance's crowning achievement while here at Port Hueneme as a lieutenant test officer was the JDS Miyoko Sea Squat, probably the second most successful and challenging sea squad in history, right after the Kurashima. Okay, I'm the only one that says that, but what's life without a good ship rivalry, right? But we mentioned those were grand days here, for those of us in the Sea Squat community. I see many of our shipwriting, friends out here in the audience. So Brian Gannon, Vance, myself, Don Britton, the Shark Tank over there, Al Murray, trained us all up and, cut us loose on the world. Marlon barely tried to keep us contained and focused and headed in the right direction as the department admin. Those were hardworking times, but an enormous amount of fun. It was the epitome of work hard, play hard. That's also where Vance got his first nickname. So Vance sort of collects nicknames like other people sort of collect stamps or other hobbies. So that's where he initiated call sign Fireball, partly for his flamboyant way of pounding through any impediment facing the ships and programs, partly for trying to burn down Steve Ballister's house in naval housing during a pool party. And if you haven't heard that story, make sure you get it here during the receptions. But this is where we all honed our ideas of camaraderie, fealty to the sailor, and a near pathological fixation and dedication to engineering excellence that Paul Mann and others that were here at the time helped instill in all of us. After making a name for himself as a test officer, you've heard Vance was pulled into the circle of DC, a vortex we all swore to avoid and all failed miserably. But you've heard the positions that Vance filled all throughout the NAVSEA infrastructure, test and evaluation, CEC, others, right? But what's key is the impact he had and what Vance achieved during those timeframes, right? Bringing forward the first instantiation of our connected and distributed fighting force with CEC and Navy Integrated Fire Control. That's where Vance developed his second nickname, Laser Beam, for call sign Laser Beam, for his single-minded and piercing focus on working with Paul Mann, with Brian Gannon, and really returning Aegis back to glory from our lowest moment, right? Way City, Vicksburg, Aegis ships welded to the pier with broken interoperability. And Vance was on the point of the spear, right, from the program and on ship in bringing us back from that brink. He's negotiated billion-dollar ship integration and test contracts. He helped roll out the first Aegis BMD baselines to the fleet, getting those first computer programs deployed for IDO back in 2003. Up at ASN, he brought forward Spy 6 radar through milestone B, right? A new anchor, which is just now entering the fleet and it's going to carry us forward for the next 40 years, right? Achieving historic savings and but always protecting readiness at every stop along the way. One thing you can say for certain is Vance is hit for power anywhere and everywhere he's gone. But all this time, I can tell you personally that Port Hueneme has remained strong in Vance's heart. Several times through his career path, he's ruminated and contemplated, coming back to Port Hueneme and what would be the right time and what would be the right place. And finally, in 2016, he had that opportunity to return as the deputy technical director, spending the last 6 years of his illustrious career right back where it started from a professional standpoint, working and dedicating himself to try to enhance the engineering excellence of Port Hueneme as you embrace a new digital transformation strategy. From the front office, he championed workforce development, right? Critical these days. The rejuvenation of the surface warfare engineering facility right down the pier here, the SWEF, and making that the center stone of a new strategy to connect Port Hueneme to the fleet and to the other warfare centers for distributed engineering, and realigning the organization to better focus all of the assets and talents that are here in this room and in this station, right, into our new fleet architectures and our new fleet organizing construct. And after 37 years, right, it's now time to pass on the torch, right, to all of you here and all of those that you lead here at the station. So going forward, let us remember this day of 31 March in naval history, the day that Commodore Perry opened trade with Japan. Fittingly, the day that the battleship Missouri, the last American battleship, was retired from service. And in 2022, when Vance Brahaske call sign Fireball and the longtime love of his life, Jessica, and their faithful companion, Commodore Perry II, set sail for the last time and retire from the U.S. Navy as well. So like the Mighty Mo, the legacy of Fireball will carry on for all of us. Vance, Jessica, wish you fair winds, following seas, and many years of well-deserved happiness. So on behalf of Admiral Page, many in the audience, and many aren't here today, I'd like to take the opportunity to say, Vance, welcome to the Old Guard.
Thank you very much for the nice remarks, Captain Anderson. We now move into the program where we get a chance to hear from our people at Port Hueneme. And we're going to be starting off with representatives from 4 organizations that report to Vance. Our first speaker is from the Chief Technology Office. Let's welcome Mr. Greg Devogel.
Well, good morning, everyone. So I got to be lead off batter on this part of the ceremony. And I do want to say that I actually have worked with or worked for Vance for 3 years. And you've gotten a lot of praise for people that he had worked for. Now the subordinates are going to talk to him. And he has signed my evaluation. So this is the unadulterated truth. That probably was an error on your part, wasn't it? No, let me be serious for a second. What a great boss to work for. Vance did what you would always want your boss to do. Set goals. He'd actually come to me and say, hey, what do you want to get done? I'd say what I wanted to get done. And Vance says, I think we need to crank that up a little bit more. Let's be a little bit more aggressive. And he would actually increase the goals a little bit. Not to make them unachievable, but to push me harder and push my group harder. And as a result, look at where we're at. FATHOMWERX, knocking it out of the park, winning the Editor Award, a 7-fold increase in our STEM outreach. 7-fold. Wow. If Mr. Mann, if your budget increased by 7-fold, you'd be pretty happy, right? Actually, we'd be bankrupt as a country, but he's got a pretty big budget. But yeah, wow, 7-fold increase in our STEM. I can go on and on. I'm not going to. So I do want to thank Vance. Thank you for, and I'm going to use some naval, and now I'm blowing it. Navigational terminology. He gave us waypoints, right? He would navigate us to a waypoint and then we would steer to that and get to it. So for a gift from OOT, I'm going to do something related to that. So hold on a second.
Oh, sextant. Wow, check this out.
Okay, it's a little small, but you guys can take a look at that. That is a sextant that they used to navigate by for hundreds of years before GPS showed up. So that'll help you shoot the stars and lay out new waypoints for yourself. I have one last story and then I'll get off the stage. I tell this story at a lot of retirements, so hopefully no one's heard this one before. But when they were building the Mount Palomar telescope, not very far away down here in Southern California, they were building it during World War II. And of course, it went up to the Appropriations Committee. And of course, the senators asked, hey, We're fighting a war. It's a big war, Germany and Japan. How does this telescope help us fight this war? And the scientists came back and said, sir, it doesn't help defend the country, but it makes the country worth defending. Wow, I'm getting emotional about this. Vance, that's your charter. Now that you're retiring, you get to help make the country worth defending. Thank you very much for your leadership.
Thank you very much, Greg. We now have somebody representing the Quality Management Office. We're fortunate to have Mr. Thomas Melring.
And our deputy, Sandhya Rahakrishna. So first of all, we don't have great sea stories or travel stories to tell. Half of our time with Vance was spent during the pandemic. So we got our collective heads together and said, what could we do for Vance? I mean, he's going to retire. We know OPM has this big backlog. It's probably going to take 3 to 6 months to finalize his retirement package. So we threw some things together and thought we'd have an auction here today just so we could tide Vance over for a couple months. So I'm going to pull out the first item. Hold that. Just to get interested. Okay. Now, Jessica, you're not allowed to bid on this, okay? All right, this is not a Rembrandt. It's not a Picasso. It's a Brahosky. I hope there's no cameras in the lobby of building 1025. Call me taking it from the wall this morning. Wow. Wonderful. Just kidding. We can't do that. I know Vance wanted this picture. So there you go. All right. So no, we're not done yet. So Vance, from both of our hearts, Sandy and I wanted to thank you for your leadership and guidance and support of the Quality Office. We appreciate your sense of humor, openness and willingness to listen to the new ideas, your technical excellence, your visionary spirit, and knowing that you always had our backs. We will miss the daily Navy history lessons, but know we can call you if we experience significant withdrawal symptoms. We wish you and Jessica nothing but the best in your retirement and continued success on your life journey. May God bless the both of you. Please remember to keep in touch with your quality friends for life. And we do have a few parting gifts for you. So I don't know if you all know, but Vance is a avocado aficionado. My mom has an avocado tree. So Vance loves avocados from my mom's tree. So we have a bag of avocados and we got him a book called An Avocado a Day. So
for tips for happy living. And this is from our scriptural things, Hindu scriptures. I just wanted to share with you.
So thank you, Vance, for your leadership and friendship.
Thank you very much, Thomas and Sadra. Our next speaker, we are very fortunate to have the chief engineer here today. Please welcome Mr. Armand Overkill.
Okay, hey, good morning. Thanks for the invitation to be here. So just for the audience to know, I've known Vance for about 4 or 5 years, roughly, since I've been here at Port Hueneme. And for the last, I want to say about 6 months or 7 months, actually reporting directly to him. So he's my boss, relatively new boss, I guess. So on behalf of our Chief Engineer's Office, first we want to thank you for your leadership and for always telling us that whatever we do, it's always about the fleet and the sailors. So you always reminded of that and never let us forget. Whether it was attending caller in the mornings or visiting every ship that came to port here, or actually spending time with our engineers doing engineering investigations. So thank you for all of that. And we've got a few gifts here to present to you from all of us. And of course, Jordan, our EA, put all of this together and decorated this bag here, and she couldn't be here. She is on maternity leave and gave birth this week. So, okay, so let's start. So first, we've got our coveted new logo of a chief engineer, which we redesigned after we reorganized on 1 October of 2021. So it says, presented to Vance Brahaske in appreciation for your leadership and dedication to the warfighter and naval history. As I said, you never let us forget it's all about the fleet. NSWC Port Hueneme PhD, Deputy Technical Director, fair winds and following seas. Thank you. Next, got this statue with all the certificates and everything, and it says "Stand Navy, out to sea, fight our battle cry." Yeah. And last but not least, we kind of started a tradition to give these out, kind of a Yeti mug, or in this case, tumbler, that will let you drink your beverage of choice, hopefully iced tea or something else. But it does have our logo, and it does wish you well in your retirement. And thank you for everything you've done for us here at Port Hueneme, and certainly for the Chief Engineer's Office. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Armand. We're equally fortunate to have our next speaker, the Chief Logistician, Mr. Tim Carpenter.
Good morning, all. Wow, what a great show. What a great turnout. It's amazing. That's right. Standing room only. Congratulations, Vance. And Jessica, this is an amazing day. So you've heard from people that have talked about Vance that have known him probably for the full 37 years of his career. I wasn't fortunate enough to have that opportunity, but I have known him ever since he arrived at Port Hueneme. I was told a lot about him by folks that I've worked with at the program office for years. I was told, we got Vance coming out there, you better get ready. And let me tell you, he has been a challenge. He constantly challenges me as a chief logistician, and he supports every one of the product support workforce here at our command. He shows up pretty much every Friday to our ELE briefs, and he questions our young ELEs, logistics ELEs that come on board. He constantly comes in my office and challenges me to keep striving harder to make things better for all of the logisticians at the command, and also to support the Navy and ensure that what really wins wars is product support and logistics. So that's why we have to make sure we're doing the right things at all times. Vance, it's been a pleasure working with you. It's really been great. So we have a couple of gifts from the Product Support Office, or what's now known as the Office of Product Support, code 300. And we'll start with a couple of those. So we've all heard. They got to go in order here. Sorry. So we've all heard about Vance's love of the Navy, naval history, and of course Port Hueneme. And I'm sure that everybody in his retirement's always going to know that he worked for Port Hueneme. But just in case he's out in town, walking around and not actually talking to someone, he can wear this, and they'll all know that he came from Port Hueneme.
Outstanding. Thank you.
So we've all talked about different points in naval history, and I think it's appropriate that you all realize that today is a point in naval history. Today is Vance's retirement, so you're all part of it. This is a milestone, and we should all remember this. It'll be easy because it's the 31st of March, right? Okay, so some other things. Now we transition into civilian life, and we got to give Vance some material so that he can continue his trivia quest. And I don't know how many of you know it, but all of you probably know I'm a Dodger fan because you see everything about me being a Dodger fan. So we've got to give him a book so that he can brush up on Dodger trivia and history so that he can walk around and give his civilian friends something other than naval history, and he can talk about the Dodgers. And last but not least, got to give him the appropriate hat to wear when he's not wearing his Port Hueneme hat. So when he goes to the game, he has the appropriate hat to wear. I actually tried to find one small enough to fit Commodore Perry, but I just couldn't find it. I apologize. So you figure out how to fit that on him. But back to all seriousness, thank you so much, Vance, to everything you've done for me and the product support community, Port Hueneme as a whole, the Navy, an amazing career, and this is a fantastic day for you. Farewell and following seas.
Thank you very much, Tim. We now move into a portion where we'll be listening to representatives of each of the three major line departments on campus. We'll start off with A department, the A department department manager, Michael Horton, SSTM. He is the second other person at Port Hueneme who is an SSTM, and we're also fortunate to have our department officer, Lieutenant Commander Jessica Jett.
Thank you, Wayne, and good morning, everyone. I have with me also Kevin Pollack from our BMD, Ballistic Missile Defense Customer Advocate Office, who would also like to tag along to provide a gift. I've known Vance. We've known each other for a couple of decades at least, but only in the last, I don't know, 6 or so years, 5 or 6 years or so, have we really started to work closely together. He called me when he was planning on applying for the DTD job here. And I was, wow, was I surprised and excited? Like, wow, we get to gain the experience of a strong leader And of course, he won the position. Along the way, he had a very big affinity to A departments. He loves all ship classes. Don't get me wrong. Every ship in the Navy, whatever it is. But he has a special affinity to destroyers and cruisers, which is what our department essentially supports. Last year, he says, Mike, listen, I have got to serve in an acting capacity as a department manager of A department. We got to figure out a time frame to do that. I said, well, okay. So last year I went on vacation and he says, okay, I'm gonna act as A department manager. So yes, he did. I come back from vacation and all my guys, my division heads and leadership are like, hey, Vance, he was like a kid in a candy store around here. He couldn't get enough of this department. He said, Mike, he makes you look pretty boring. And I said, well, that's not hard to do. But he so loves A. He loves all departments. Don't get me wrong, but A department was just his. I don't know what it is. Maybe destroyers, cruisers. Vance number 1 or 2 had to have served on the Merrimack or the Monitor. And the only thing I can think of is the common denominators are both made of iron, the first ironclads, right? So anyway, I don't know. Anyway, Vance, you have been a confidant, a peer, a mentor in many ways. You've supported A department the best that any leader could. I am so ever grateful for that. Our friendship has just strengthened and blossomed and all the time I've known you in these last few years, and I just can't thank you enough for it. Before I turn it over to Commander Jet and Kevin, okay, I don't have my glasses. I have something I'd like to read. Here they are. All right. A lot of this you've heard already, but I prepared this yesterday. Ode to Vance Brahaske. Okay. The year was 2016 when last Vance joined our shop, but it was also in the mid-90s that he paid Nemesis a stop. He came to us in 96 after being a Navy LT. But little did he really know what an impact a Govey he'd be. He served in esteemed positions at program offices, NAVC, and Pentagon, but ultimately it was our fine command who would be the final one. Vance brought with him his knowledge, his skills, his mind, his talents. He helped our team to flourish just when we needed some balance. His leadership brought us to new heights, and new heights we did. But even through the toughest times, he never blew his lid. We got to know Vance pretty well. His love for protocol. We learned he was a gentleman, a kind and thoughtful soul. We also learned his special hobby, one he keeps no mystery. No one can rival his fiery passion of all things naval history. Rooms and rooms of Navy stuff fill his home and in order. So much so his poor wife must feel, I think he is a hoarder. Officers were especially important to Vance, very proud of those he met, including Admiral Wayne E. Meyer, who stated, "We ain't done yet." He loved reciting Navy quotes, always with heartfelt might, such as that of Captain JPJ, "I have not yet begun to fight." Vance is indeed a patriot and very proud of our nation's colors. He could be seen each morning at attention and rendering honor. A department held a special place in his mind and in his heart, from his role as once an Aegis PO that he played a major part. Yes, Vance so loves the Navy each and every day. I saw him barely contain himself when we watched the Battle of Midway. He had his ways about him, but certainly we all do. We can be ever grateful that he was part of our great crew. His tour up his duty done, he's turned in his keys. From A Department Leaders Vance, farewell and following seas. Vance, I took this off our wall. Here, come on. I took this off our wall. I know how much you love DDG 108 and Wayne E. Meyer. This was presented to us by Captain Al Greco. I want you to have it. Here's a rendering as you see here. It's signed by Captain Greco. At the Risk of Wrath by Jessica. More stuff to put in your home. I really want you to have this. I think you'll cherish it.
And I think Al Greco want me to have it.
I'm sure of it, without doubt. Okay, with that, I'll turn it over to Commander Jet. Excellent.
Hello, Vance. So, I mean, first of all, I guess when I met Vance the first time, I just remember everybody's talked about it today, how enthusiastic and warm and just joyful you are. So that's something I'll remember. I could talk about your service to the fleet, obviously, one of the representatives here today. We're very thankful for that. But again, your heart and your enthusiasm, I think, is something that struck me as a person and is something that I want to emulate. But and side note, I don't know if you've checked the Bible, but there's no retirement in the Bible. So you got to keep going. So that's what the boss said. So just wanted to let you know. But from us in A Department, I don't know if you recognize this picture or the little gentleman down there at the bottom. Yeah. So from us to you in A Department, we really value your support and your encouragement and your dedication to the Navy. So we wanted to sign a picture and dedicate. Do you remember this day when you were standing there?
I do. Jessica, this was the day that I got up so early and you wondered why I was so excited about getting down to the waterfront. It was to watch USS Wayne E. Meyer pull in at sunrise. So this is really special. I am right here. You're right here. I'm the 5 pixels right here.
And I just noticed somehow I got stuff all over me. So it looked like I was hanging out with my 2-year-old. Anyway, so on behalf of A Department, thank you for all of your service. And thanks, Marlon, who's, as always, the chief organizer of everything we do well in A Department. So thank you very much. And then Kevin, where did he go?
Hi, Vance. Just real quickly, I wanted to give you a small token of our appreciation from our BMD familia. Personally, I want to thank you for your decades of friendship. There's a handful of us here who knew Lieutenant Brahosky, Lieutenant Anderson, and the other rambunctious set of LTs here in the mid-90s. So it's been a pleasure to watch your civilian career progress, and we were all tickled pink when you came back to PhD. So, and professionally, want to thank you for your support to our BMD project. As a naval historical expert, you were always able to put what we were doing in perspective, and under your watch, we're now routinely intercepting ballistic missiles in space from ships, and that is just historically unprecedented. So thanks, fair winds and following seas. A picture of Grace Hopper shooting an SM-3, another routine exercise. This one was, it was a Fleet X. So well done and good luck. We'll be watching.
Thank you very much, A Department representatives. Now we move on to L Department. We're fortunate to have as our representative, Mr. Rich Watanabe.
Hey, Vance, on behalf of the L Department, really do appreciate your leadership and really do appreciate your daily dose of naval history. We have it every single day whenever we meet, and you always have something to say about that. So with that, I just want to, with you and your legacy, you kind of brought a lot of that with you and stays with you. We'll do a lot of the task forces that you've done. The Common Combat Systems Task Force about 1.5 years ago. A lot of us in the leadership in the L department around the other departments really were part of that group. And really, looking to the next phase with the future state task force, the reorganization efforts that we've done is really insightful in the efforts that you helped to lead. And that legacy is going to remain because we're looking at the naval architectures in the future of where that's going to go. So we're going to be able to support that because of your leadership. Thank you so much. With that, we want to present to you a plaque. And this is going to start 1 October, a collector's item. So when we look at this, hopefully we won't see it on eBay, but if you hold on to it, it might grow in value. So. This is where you came from. This is awesome. Thank you. So thank you so much for your leadership and your support for the Navy. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rich. The third major line department for us today is S Department. We're glad to have our department officer, Lieutenant Commander Levi Jones.
Yeah, thank you. So, so days like today are, they're a mix of emotions, happiness and sadness. On one hand, happiness that we're here celebrating such a long career, 37 years of service to the Navy, but also sadness that we're losing such an advocate, so much experience, so much naval experience that has really helped out S Department. Sometimes I've wondered so much why you care so much about the self-defense test ship. And now after seeing A Department, they're hearing their speech, it's the destroyers. You have just been so helpful with everything regarding the self-defense test ship. You've really been an advocate for it. You helped us get the program office and OpNav to understand really where the program needs to go to get that ship into an SRA. I think we talked, you're one of the very few people that has any sort of SRA experience with your time in Yokosuka. So you've been really helpful for that. And I think you're going to leave a really big hole for us to try to figure out, what happens on April 1st. So thank you so much there. Also, in the world of directed energy, very interesting that his old nickname was, what was it? Laser beam. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. You were a big part of the directed energy lab down in, that we just finished constructing, right? Yeah. Down in Point Magoo. So thank you for all your help there and all the work with directed energy. And yeah, so the final parting comment is, as was mentioned, you're often out there with the command duty officers at turnover when we do colors. They will be very, very lonely without you, and we might have to figure out how to keep them company some other way. So with that, Mr. Brahosky, fair winds and following seas from S Department. Thank you for everything you've done. Fortunate to have Jim Childs.
Yeah, Commander Jones, I wasn't planning to speak, but Commander Jones offered to give me the opportunity. And since Vance is here and Mr. Mann is here, when I started working for Vance is when we were fielding SSDS Mark II on USS Nimitz initially, and then on USS Ronald Reagan. Very challenging. And at the time, we were fielding Ronald Reagan and completing all the development testing and the C squat, then getting her ready to deploy. Vance was our sponsor back at NAVC to conduct the interoperability testing with Ronald Reagan and the Reagan Strike Group to apply lessons learned from Captain Anderson mentioned Way City, Vicksburg, and the issues we've had fielding new capabilities and integrating them into not just the ship, but the strike group that deploy and need to operate together. Very challenging effort. Excellent opportunity to engage with the fleet and team with, I was in the Ship Defense Department, but team with air dominance and the other activities here. And Vance was a great sponsor. Really appreciated his support then. Like everyone, very excited when Vance came out to work here at Port Hueneme. And Vance, I wish you all the best. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Jim. We now will hear from two speakers from our command office. We'll start off with our Chief of Staff, Mr. Raul Bustamante. And we will also hear at the end from our technical director, Mr. Jeff Coe.
Thank you, Wayne. The TD night tag team this one. Vance. All right. So first off, before we do the official trinkets, I do have a few things I want to share about Vance. So I didn't have the pleasure of working with Vance for decades upon decades. Actually, most of my time working with Vance was on active duty when I was for about 3 years of that time, and we were not too far off. You came in 16, I came in 17, and I learned a lot about you, and I learned a lot from you. But one thing for sure I didn't realize is that you're up now one fourth reincarnation of Vance Brahaske, based on Dr. Lupe's explanation of naval history. So every sailor and every new hire, I'm going to tell them when they ask, where do they get all these facts about what happened this day in naval history? Well, I'm going to tell them that the fourth reincarnation of Vance Brahaske is where the Navy calls to get all those bits of information. And then the other two things I learned about Vance, which many of you probably know about just from who he is that he values relationships. He values friendships. He values every person he's connected with. And one way that he values those relationships is the way that he mentors people. But I do have one sea story about one particular person that he mentored, and that was the former captain, Captain Ray Acevedo. So he and Captain Acevedo went on a trip. And they come back from the trip, and Mr. Brahosky says, I think I pissed off the captain. And I said, Vance, what did you do? And I was on active duty at the time, and Captain Acevedo was not in the office yet. And he said, well, Raul, I took the time to tell the captain how he should do something, and he was the driver in the car, and I was the passenger, and I think he was ready to stop the car and kick me out. And I said, oh God, this can't be good. What am I gonna do? And I'm the XO at the time, and I'm trying to figure out, do I try to solve this or just let it go? And well, I just let it go. And I let Mr. Brahosky do his mentoring thing, as he's done with every other sailor or other civilian that he's touched in the 37 years that he's been in civil service and in the Navy. So Vance, whether you like it or not, and you don't realize it, you did mentor me. I might not have listened to everything you said, but I heard it. I value most your friendship and everything you've done for me. All right, so thank you, Vance. So from me specifically, and at least from the front office, we do have one thing, and I'll turn it over to TD. Actually, this is all from us. All right, so this is from the front office. Naval Service Warfare Center, Port Hueneme Division presented the Vance A. Brahaske, August 21, 2016 to March 31st, 2022, fair winds and following seas. All right, and also the flag was flown 3 times. right, Vance? 2 ships, and then once the final time at the command, and the certificate goes presented to Vance Brahaske in tribute to your 37 years of faithful service to the United States Navy and to your fellow co-workers. The United States flag accompanying the certificate is presented to you. With this flag, you will carry the memories and experiences of an exciting and fulfilling career. The accompanying United States flag was flown over Naval Surface Warfare Center, Port Hueneme Division, Port Hueneme, California, on the 27th day of January 2022, and is presented in commemoration of your retirement. Signed, Captain AJ Hoffman, Captain United States Navy, Commanding Officer, Naval Surface Warfare, Port Hueneme Division.
Good afternoon, everybody. Oh, what a great day, huh? Vance, so just on behalf of your PhD family, I wanted to congratulate yourself and Jessica. Just a great accomplishment. I do have a letter from the CO. I'm not going to read everything, but I did want to highlight some of the major accomplishments and you know, you really set your legacy here at Port Hueneme, right? And first one is really just this facility that we're standing in here today. FATHOMWERX, right? The Navy's Tech Bridge, National Asset, our Innovation Center. I think you could be proud that your hard work and development of this facility, your legacy will always be here. Just the work you've done with the STEM students, the mentoring. I too have been a recipient of some of Vance's mentoring, whether I liked it or not, right? But just the relationships you've built with academia partners. Right. So we're going to certainly leverage that, continue that. And you can be proud that every student that we receive from Cal State Channel Islands, Pepperdine, or Cal Lutheran, that's part of your legacy as well. Right? And then really just a reminder, Vance, every day, people already said it, just your passion, your dedication, your love to the U.S. Navy, making sure we understand constantly that it's all about the people, the warfighter, and the mission. So wanted to thank you on that. Congratulations again, I think, from all of us here at PhD. And I think we could all agree, right? Probably as long as we live, we'll never meet another individual like Mr. Vance Brahaske. Okay? So congratulations.
Thank you very much, Jeff. We've heard a lot of nice words, well-deserved words from a number of speakers today. Now let's hear from our honored retiree. Vance, the floor is yours.
Wow. So I am obviously overwhelmed. 37 years to get to this point. Actually closer to 50, and I'll highlight the role that Captain Eugene Gomolka has played in my life at the age of 10, which set me on the journey that brings me here today. So I'm deeply, deeply honored that we were able to have Vice Admiral John Hill, an old shipmate, running Missile Defense Agency, to be able to come here today in the form of that virtual message. Admiral Kate Page, who I'm a very, very close friend with and had a long and heartfelt conversation with early this morning to sort of set the stage for today. I'm indebted to both of them. Dr. Lupke, thank you for taking the time to come up from San Diego, as also with Mr. Rich Cassis, Mike Anderson, all the way from the East Coast with your lovely bride, Karen, longtime shipmates. Thank you, all of you, for being able to help to set the stage for our farewell. I want to thank every senior leader here. So Mr. Mann, ASNRDA, the Chief Engineer of the Navy, Mr. Jeff Coe, our newest Technical Director at the station, Mr. Tom Dowd, longtime friend, Keel Macias, both at Magoo and at NAFAC, Exwick, and of course, Rich Cassis, fellow Penn Stater, the newest, a new member of the senior executive cadre down at NAVWAR in San Diego. Thank you for that, as well as for Kristen Dekas and Christina Birdsey from the Port of Hueneme, who are not able to be here right now. They may join us later. We owe a debt of gratitude to them because we're in a Port of Hueneme space, a civilian Port of Hueneme space, which allows us to have the FATHOMWERX facility. We have Mr. Gene Fisher from the Regional Defense Partnership 21st Century, who I'm looking forward to working with closely in my retirement to help with some strategic planning. We have Lori Arnold, who is the executive director for the Ventura County Office of Education here. We have Dr. Vandana Kohli and Dr. Michael Soltis from Cal State University Channel Islands. We have industry leaders here from a number of industry partners, both that are central to Ventura County as well as nationally. And I want to thank all of you for that, as well as Brian and Eric Wendt. Where are the Wendt brothers? They're over there. So the Wendt brothers, Matter Labs, these folks are instrumental. If they didn't have Brian and Eric Wendt helping me and Alan Yeager and many others, we wouldn't have the FATHOMWERX facility that we have today. So I thank the Matter Labs cadre led by Brian and by Eric. Bruce Steinsley, who's not here today, heads up the Ventura County Economic Development Collaborative. So you think about the role that they play effectively as our Ventura County Chamber of Commerce. We get to do what we're doing here because we have a partnership with them, and they in turn have a partnership with the port, which allows us to have a facility like this. So I wanted to give a shout out to Bruce Steinsley. We are live streaming, I believe. And so I took many phone calls yesterday and early this morning, and these are shipmates that I've served with throughout the world, throughout the last almost 40 years. So it's unbelievable, but there are officers in the Danish Navy watching us now from ships in the Baltic. There are personnel sitting in the Ministry of Defense bases in Australia and in Tokyo and in Seoul and Pyongyang. Our NATO allies in Europe, who I've served with throughout NATO Sea Sparrow programs and other foreign military sales programs, they're all here linking through live. Admiral Page is connected. So I wanted to wish Admiral Page a good morning from sunny Southern California. My family is linked in, my classmates, my shipmates throughout time. Everyone is dialed in virtually, as well as all of you physically. And I could not be more grateful for that opportunity to just wish all of you thanks for having been here. Wayne Shaw, Master of Ceremonies. I watched him be a Master of Ceremonies for Deanna Rudy and others. And I said, I got to get Wayne Shaw and get him booked for this. So now I think your stock is even going to go higher as a result of this. You're going to be in great demand. Reverend Tom Melring. So he's a coworker of mine, and we work on quality systems. And as I'm trying to schedule my retirement, I'm trying to figure out who I'm going to get to do opening and closing prayers. And he says, Vance, hello, I'm an ordained minister. You can tap me. So I got him for the front and the back end of today. And then I was able to connect through the power of social media to Father Gomolka. And I said, you know what? If you're willing to come up from Coronado, then you're going to get a microphone and you're going to get a chance to have the closing prayers. So I want to give my expressions of gratitude to the two of you as well. So Nick Willis, Mark Thompson, Jason Bickford, Alan Yeager, Greg Devogel, John O'Neill, Kenny Fong, Ruby Valenzuela, Marlon Peralta, Mylon Tell, the list goes on and on and on and on. These folks all have, we have everything here set up for this ceremony today because they all took the time out of their busy schedules to support Jessica and I. As the outgoing deputy tech director, I lead a technical group, as you'd expect. And so I want to make sure that I'm thankful for the Office of Technology, the Office of Quality, the Office of Engineering, and the Integrated Product Support, Office of Product Support. We wouldn't be able to get much of what we do here at this command done if your leadership wasn't present and executed every day. And then we also have relationships with those who wear the cloth of our uniform. And so Commander Smith and Commander Jed and Commander Jones, we have two fine upstanding Senior Chief Petty Officers, Senior Chief Hiaze and Senior Chief Johnson. So if one of you could just hold up your placard, there's a date at the bottom, and that date is 1 April 1893. And so that's a very special day in the history of the Navy and for all of us, because 31st of March, tomorrow morning, it's the 1st of April. It's the 129th anniversary of the establishment of the rank of Chief Petty Officer in the Navy. And I'll tell you, if you've ever done anything in the United States Navy, you've done it because there's a Chief Petty Officer somewhere in that calculus that's helping you move from, I've got a great idea, to it works on the ship. Chief Petty Officers are ones that make that happen, and their anniversary, their birthday is tomorrow. And we have two Senior Chief Petty Officers here today, outgoing and incoming. And I just want to thank both of you for that and your service. Wow. Yeah. They're going to start tearing up because I'm talking so much about the Chiefs because I love them so much. So on the personal front, my parents, Albert and Alice Brahosky, they're not able to be here today. They passed away many, many, many years ago. But there is no doubt in my mind that Mom and Dad are looking down from heaven. And as they look down, they're looking down on number 2 son and they're saying, that kid didn't turn out so bad after all. And that was not a foregone conclusion, as Father Gomolka can well attest. So I've got an older brother, Michael, in State College, Pennsylvania. I have a younger sister, Beth, in Bowling Green, Kentucky, and a younger brother, Steve, in Round Rock, Texas, all of whom are dialed in and watching now. And they're here spiritually. Obviously, they can't be physically because they've got other commitments, but I couldn't be the person that I am today without mom and dad and with my brothers and sisters helping to form those foundations. My closest friend from childhood to the present is a gentleman by the name of Brad Swales, and he lives in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And I have laid many problems on Brad's doorstep over the last almost 60 years. And he's been so instrumental in helping, and he sends his love and support from Pennsylvania. I have the closest friend that I ever had in the United States Navy, Lieutenant Commander Joe Ross, who was the best man and his wife at our wedding in Monterey. He passed away several years ago from non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. God called him home far too soon for me, but I miss him terribly. I talked to his widow, Julie, last night, and she and their family are dialed in watching today. So I want to give a shout out to the Ross family, and Joe Ross is here in spirit as well, Julie. So thank you for joining virtually. As Wayne highlighted, everything that I do is grounded from the past, building the bridge to the future. And so that's why today is a very special day. I think Captain Anderson and others have talked about Commodore Matthew Calbreth Perry, who was the younger brother of Commodore Oliver Hazard Perry, and opening up the Treaty of Kanagawa to Japan, and those Japanese Chin breed of dog given to the United States by the Japanese government. Japanese Chin is the only breed of dog ever to make it to the shores of America, courtesy of the United States Navy, which is why Jessica and I got in our car in Washington, D.C., drove all the way to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, found a shelter where there was a Japanese Chin named Bruce Lee, renamed him Commodore Perry II, brought him all the way back to Virginia, and he's now at home waiting patiently for treats as we finish up today. But today is also it would have been my father's 88th birthday. So my dad would have been 88 today. And I know that he is very much here in spirit. And I'm wearing some of his accoutrements that he wore many years ago as a program manager in the defense industry, supporting the Air Force and 3-letter agencies and some of his critical work. So happy birthday, Dad, from heaven. We've talked about FATHOMWERX and how this place came to be, and that's why we really are here. This is a very special place. This place was born on a whiteboard back in September of 2018 in Alan Yeager's office, who's sitting way over here off my starboard side. And so Alan and I were trying to figure out a way to come through the bureaucracy of the United States Navy and trying to get some resources so that we could have an innovation center, so that we could motivate and retain our workforce internal to our command, but also could do some outreach to the community. So long story short, Alan and I whiteboarded out this idea, which became this phenomenal public-private enterprise that you see here today. We've had the Chief of Naval Operations here. We've had the Undersecretary of the Navy here. We've had numerous generals and admirals here. And if the schedule holds, we may even have the Governor of California here next week taking a tour of this space because of what the governor sees as the potential for an innovation hub here. All of that started because people had ideas, and those ideas were allowed to nurture and grow, and through teaming with public and private, we were able to pull that off. So I'm grateful for your friendship and your mentorship, Alan and Greg and many others, for helping us to get to this point. So everybody asks me, how did this all start? Vance, you have passion that if you could tap into it, you could power not only the United States grid, but the entire world from ad infinitum just on your passion for the US Navy. Where did it come from? And it came from him. And so this is how this started. I am an altar boy. I'm 10 years old in central Pennsylvania. And as an altar boy, I would look to and provide support during the course of Mass for the Catholic priests that were in our local Catholic parish. Father Gomolka was our local parish Catholic priest back in the day. He had a picture in his office, and in that picture was a man in a white Navy uniform in a foreign port with a warship in the background. And so as a 10-year-old boy, seeing that picture, it spoke volumes of a life of adventure. And the advertisements that were running at the time were join the Navy, see the world. Of my generation, you probably remember those ads, join the Navy, see the world. And I said, I got to do it. I'm jumping on that bandwagon. And so Father Gamoke helped me in navigating a path out of central Pennsylvania, also known as Happy Valley, which Rich Cassis can attest, these rolling farmlands and these rolling hills and this very bucolic, peaceful atmosphere. But it wasn't enough for me. I needed to see the world. And so Father Gamoke helped me to get onto a path for an ROTC commission, getting a commission in the United States Navy, taking orders to a ship in San Diego, home porting, re-home porting to Long Beach, meeting Jessica, and the rest is history that allows me to be here today. So what started off with adventure quickly transitioned into this life of service, both ashore and at sea, with those core values that we don't often hear enough about, in my opinion, of honor and courage and commitment. Honor, courage, and commitment is what our Navy is all about. And it's what I've tried to be about as I've served it in any numbers of ways. My ancestors came here back in the 1800s, early 1900s from Poland and Germany. They have served in all branches of the military. They've served in wars from World War I up to the present day, to include my own service. My dad was in the 101st Airborne in the Army back in the 1950s. My great uncle, so my grandfather's youngest brother, joins the Navy shortly after the bombs fell at Pearl Harbor. He joins a cruiser, USS San Diego. He survives the war, but he fights on that ship against the Imperial Japanese through 18 major battles from Guadalcanal all the way to Okinawa. And he inspired me. He inspired me about honor and courage and commitment in naval service. And so I wanted to make sure that I got a flag flown over USS San Diego. And I believe you were with me at the time, or others, but we had that ship pull into port and get a flag flown off of that ship. And it was presented by Mr. Coe earlier. I also wanted to make sure that if we ever work with our allies, that we help them to understand the role that our Navy plays in the defense of our freedoms on a global scale. So when I was in the wardroom on JDS Miyoko, the third Aegis ship in the Japanese Navy, I knew that they have a tradition that when they pass by a piece of ocean in which something significant happened in their naval history, they will always stop their ships and they will have a solemn ceremony in remembrance of the sacrifices that their sailors made at some battle in the past. I knew that our track was going to take us through the battle site where Midway was fought in June of 42. And so I approached the ship and I asked for permission to lead with them in a joint US Navy, Japanese Navy ceremony. I needed to get permission from Admiral Page. And so she had to gin up a set of orders that effectively allowed me to go and do this event in partnership with our Japanese allies. Admiral Page then had to authorize the shipment of my sword, which is on the table and it'll cut the cake later today, which was at my commissioning back in '85. Admiral Page was instrumental in getting that sword out to the ship so we can use it to cut the cake on the Japanese ship Miyoko at the Battle of Midway site in 1996. And now it's going to be here today as we cut the cake and celebrating this. So it's all tied together. Everything that we do is tied together in the U.S. Navy in defense of our country. Admiral Hill talked about the water line. So the water line was something that I pushed the envelope in. I painted my office to look like a ship because I wanted Nilo Maniquez and many others who helped us deliver ships, both forward fit and back fit with new technology. Every day I wanted people to come to work and realize it's not about you as an individual. It's about the ship and the men and women that have to man those ships. There are sons and daughters, our aunts and uncles, our friends, our shipmates. So let's do everything we can to make those ships as powerful as they can be. And so it's a very powerful way to inspire those around us. And that picture, by the way, is in your brochure at the very end. And if you go all the way to the back, you'll see in the lower right-hand corner, 400 B6 on the water line, gray, black boot top, red lead, hull numbers, everything. So it's all about a remembrance of, in order to help us to do better to make sure that those ships can actually do what they're supposed to do should they ever be called upon. Now, I want to spend a moment and dedicate some time to talk about Jessica. So Jessica and I met in the mid-1980s when I was stationed on USS John A. Moore in Long Beach, California, courtesy of our commanding officer. And as I met Jessica, I realized that she was the one that I wanted to spend the rest of my life with. But I also really enjoy the Navy. So I figured I'm going to try to do two things at once. I'm going to serve, and then I'm going to convince Jessica to also serve. And so I was a command duty officer on John A. Moore in port in Long Beach, California. And I proposed to Jessica right after I took the 8 o'clock reports and just before we showed the evening movie. Jessica, of course, said no. It took 4 months to recover from that nearly catastrophic mistake. And Lieutenant Commander Joe Ross, my best friend in all the world in the Navy, who I talked about earlier, was instrumental in getting me back on track. We then moved to Monterey, California to go to graduate school. And because I'm trying to get everything done, I jammed a 15-minute Catholic ceremony for wedding in between a morning final exam and an afternoon final exam because I tried to get it all done. And Jessica hung in there for that incredibly. We did not take our first honeymoon until 23 years into our marriage because all of these Navy commitments and all of this and all that. So I'm just amazed that you're still with me, but maybe you are thinking, you want to just see how this story is going to end possibly. So Jessica obviously goes far and beyond what I could have possibly expected in a partner. Every morning at 5 a.m., I will typically wake her up with some excited news about what happened on that day in Navy history. At 5 a.m., she'll give me a kiss, goodbye, tell me to have a great Navy day, and then kick me out of bed so I can start my day and she can go back to sleep as she should. So Jessica, I just want you to know that none of this is possible without you in my life. And I want to express that gratitude by giving you some flowers. It's okay. So in closing, I want to wish the best for those that remain on watch, because I get to go off to retirement, but there are many, many others. All of you, many of you are on watch. And so I would just want to make sure that as I leave with a great deal of satisfaction from the work completed, but I'm also leaving with a deeper sense of gratitude for the role that everybody that you played, all the roles that you collectively and individually have played in my life and in the life of me with Jessica, to include everybody that's watching around the world virtually. Because it matters. It really matters. Those relationships that we have with each other matter in getting the things done right, because those ships really have to matter should they ever be called upon to fight. And that's never far from my thoughts. I know the Father Gamolka is going to end this morning with a prayer, but I did want to insert the following a short prayer because it just conveys this deeper spiritual part of me that many of you have seen from time to time. So from Psalm 107, they that go down to the sea in ships, that do business in great waters, these see the works of the Lord and his wonders in the deep. And so on behalf of my beloved Jessica and our sailor dog, Commodore Perry, I say Godspeed to all of you. And I thank you again as Jessica and I now proceed on to other duties as assigned. And then finally, for those that were keeping score, I actually used the word Navy 13 times this morning in my speech in honor of the birthday of our great maritime service, which of course is 13 October 1775. So Wayne, back to you.
Thank you very much for those very inspirational words, Vance. We wish you the best for you and Jessica in your retirement. Thank you also everybody that came today to wish them well. I know they had a special day and we're pleased to have all of you there. We will now move into the final portion of our program for our closing prayer. Please stand as you are able for the closing prayer, which will be led by Chaplain Corps Captain Gene Gomulka, United States Navy retired.
You look at him as this engineer with all this experience and dedication and knowledge. I look at him as the little kid that I knew almost 50 years now. But I'm not surprised where he is. I know he's told you he was that kind of kid too. But I knew he had a spark in him. I knew there was something that is going to bring him to this day. And as I listened to all of you and all the presentations and all the speeches, I think you could all summarize it by saying, Vance, thank you for helping to create for our Navy a future worthy of its past. Let us pray. Lord God, on the occasion of Vance's retirement, we want to give thanks for all of the people who played an important part in bringing Vance to this milestone in his life. Beginning with his upbringing in State College, Pennsylvania, those of us who knew his mom and dad, his brothers and sister, and the love they had for one another are not surprised what Vance would accomplish in the course of his 37 years of military and governmental service. As we invoke your blessing upon us all this day, we pray in a very special way for Jessica, the wind beneath Vance's wings. In honoring her, we pay tribute to all military and governmental wives in general whose support, love, and fidelity reflects a personal commitment not only to their spouses, but also to the value of a lifestyle based on service to others. Lord, as Jessica and Vance transition from military and governmental life to civilian life, may they look back with few regrets. May they look around them with gratitude and love. And may they look forward with hope and confidence that you, O Lord, will continue to accompany them in good times and in bad, in sickness and in health, through fair winds and following seas, all the days of their lives. Amen.
Thank you very much, Captain Gomulka. We will conclude this wonderful ceremony with the singing of the national anthem. Please remain standing, and we're pleased to have back Ms. Lisa Zimmerman.
Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountains, majesties above the fruited plain. America, America, God shed his grace on thee and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shady sea.
Thank you very much, Lisa, for a very inspirational ending to a wonderful ceremony. I'll conclude. And Vance asked that I conclude our ceremony with a famous quote that we already heard from his favorite naval hero, Captain John Paul Jones. I have not yet begun to fight. The ceremony is adjourned. Have a great Navy Day.